Hello, hello, hello. This is Dmitry Ivanovich, aka Jeff Soberov. In a few minutes, I'm going to be calling the courthouse and I'm going to be arranging for a telephone hearing. This hearing is based upon a court hearing which was held over 2 years ago, in which I was ordered to receive by Judge Nancy Tabor everything that the 7th Judicial District has on me and the Clinton County Police have. I have not received any of that material yet. This hearing is held in reference to a post-conviction relief effort. 4 previous applications were destroyed by prosecutor Mike Wolf. That action calls for disbarment. And in order for me to prosecute my case, I need to have this material. And Judge Nancy Tabor knew this. What I'm wondering is if Nancy Tabor included a note on copies to people other than me that says, "This court order is written on toilet paper, you can disregard it." For over a decade, the 7th Judicial District has denied me due process. I argued, I thought successfully in court, to be given subpoenas and an allowance for a deposition to be held, because more than half a dozen lawyers attempted to prosecute this issue without any evidence and without bothering to bring a case to court. Telephone interviews that I had with these people, many of them from prison, indicated to me that they didn't intend to acquire any kind of evidence at all. Jack Wolf, one of the last lawyers that I was able to have dismissed, told me that he had acquired an allowance from the court to get expert witnesses. I was then informed by the court immediately before a hearing, such as this one, that Mr. Wolf never did that. You know, an attorney's not supposed to lie to his client under any circumstances. I have records, indisputable records, of where every attorney that the court has appointed to me has lied to me, where a guilty plea has been entered on my behalf without my consent. That's not supposed to happen. In order to save time, I'm going to pause this until I am connected to the hearing. Yes, I'm Jeff Soberov. I have a hearing scheduled for 8:25, I believe, telephonic.
Okay, hold on. And you're the attorney for it?
Apparently I am.
Party.
That's a thing that I'm going to have to, an issue I'm apparently going to have to raise with the Supreme Court.
Okay. Do you have a case number?
It's post-conviction relief, case number 07231 PCC V039401. And that hearing was scheduled for 8:35.
Okay. I found you on the schedule. So it looks like you'll be talking to Judge Latham this morning,
Apparently.
and I just need to wait for somebody from the state to get here.
All right.
So is there anybody else that is, I guess,
The issue mainly is one where this case calls for an attorney who's willing to go to the wall for the victim.
okay,
Now, in all of these court cases, evidence has been suppressed by Mike Wolf. And Mike Wolf did, in fact, destroy 4 previous post-conviction relief efforts that were sent to him. The last one was
I'm not the judge or an attorney on the case. You don't have to tell me all that.
well, the thing is, for 10 years I've been being denied due process. Now I've been appointed my own counsel because court-appointed attorneys don't want to deal with the primary fact of this case, which calls for a summary judgment. It calls for a summary judgment. It also calls for Mike Wolf to be disbarred. As a matter of fact, a lawyer who was the managing attorney in the case of my having to dismiss Mr. Merrill, who refused to talk to me after I talked to his boss. And his boss told me that Mr. Wolf is worthy of disbarment. And I recorded that conversation. Now, apparently, Mr. Merrill didn't want to do something he has to do at the very beginning. He has to take exception to the fact that Mr. Wolf destroyed 4 post-conviction relief applications. Apparently, attorneys don't want to go up against other attorneys, particularly when they are prosecutors. But I have been on the street now for 4 years while being denied due process, and I have talked to numerous people who tell me that Mr. Wolf did this to them too. And you know, most of those are minority people, and I already know that Mr. Wolf is a dyed-in-the-wool racist. So I'm not going to let it pass. Huh?
You're representing yourself?
Well, no.
Right.
Look, right now I'm going to have to write to the Supreme Court. And I'm going to have to tell them that, well, the court allows real lawyers to petition the court to schedule depositions and issue subpoenas. I'm not going to be allowed to.
So I'm going to put you on hold, and we're going to wait for Judge Latham to be ready, okay?
Yes, I'm waiting.
Is there an attorney on the phone also, or not yet?
I'm only connected to you.
Okay, that's fine. I'll place you on a brief hold, and I'm just waiting for the other attorney to call in, and then I will conference you guys together.
Do you have
okay?
any idea who the attorney of the day is?
I do not, unfortunately.
Because
we're
I've already
running-
objected. I've already objected to having my Wolf participate in these proceedings.
Okay, I will let Judge Latham know that. I just need to place you on a brief hold so that once the other attorney calls in, I can conference you together and send you into Judge Latham.
Very good.
Okay, let me place you on a brief hold, please. One moment.
Well, apparently I'm on hold. We are a minute past start time, which is not unusual for the court. But as far as I know, the county attorney from Clinton has not even contacted the court yet.
Silverhoff, are you there?
Yes, I am.
All right, and are you there also?
Yes,
Okay, let me place you guys on a brief hold and I'll transfer you to the judge. One moment.
thank you.
this is taking a while. So, as soon as I hear something,
Henry Latham, we'll start the hearing in just a moment.
Okay. I'm ready when you are, Judge.
We're going to begin the hearing now. We're hearing the matter of Jeff Soboroff versus State of Iowa, case number PCCB 039401. Soboroff appears by telephone conference, and also we have Attorney McHugh this morning from the Clinton County Attorney's Office.
Yes, Your Honor.
Right. McHugh appears also by telephone conference. The matter before the court is the motion for discovery that was filed by Mr. Soboroff, and he requested hearing on the same. Mr. Soboroff, I have read your motion. You stated that you have failed to receive the material from the Clinton County Attorney's Office. Is that correct, sir?
that's true. I've also been unable to collect anything from the Clinton County Police, and that was court ordered by Judge Tabor over 2 years ago. Now, it's impossible.
In the material that would have been in the custody of the Clinton County Attorney's Office.
Well, the Clinton County Attorney's Office apparently held a secret hearing. I was bused to Clinton County, and I was ordered to stay out of Clinton County. And right now, the County Attorney's Office does not even want to admit that that hearing took place. Well, I was ordered to stay out of Clinton County. My home was broken into. It was robbed. I'm short a cooler that was in my bar, and that thing was valued at over $2,000. All of my personal possessions were pilfered. The area in the basement of my home was not touched by fire. I don't know why all of my possessions were removed from it. I did find on a stool on my second visit, because people continued to be allowed to break into my house. For some reason, the city had changed the locks to my house, and then Mr. Levine refused to give me the key. And when I came back with another lock and forced the door open and put a lock on my house, I found that there was further intrusion into my home. They took a cat box that was full of kitty litter and feces, and they took my wedding pictures. And they put them in there, and I found that. I reached into that cold water, and I watched the emulsion fade away from my wedding pictures. They took everything that I had. I was not, and Mr. Wolf told the police, ordered the police not to take a report. So when the policeman came, he wrote a false report. There is a man, Chuck Cole, who was there and is a witness to the fact that the report that Mr. Officer Matthew Owen wrote is a lie. Recently, I was told by hospital administration that I could go to the hospital and collect a referral to nuclear medicine. I am seriously ill. And instead of receiving that, I was beaten by an off-duty Davenport police officer. By the way, he is also featured in a video on YouTube where he went into a hospital and beat a woman because he didn't like her boyfriend. I have been beaten on the street in Davenport, the place where Clinton County ordered me to stay, by policemen, repeatedly. Because on my website is evidence that the police collude with street trash in the interstate sale of narcotics. I named some of those policemen, Your Honor. I've never been sued. I used to be a rich guy, Your Honor, until I started to write about public corruption and how the state of Iowa raped a baby. And until I started writing about that, there were never any serious efforts to commit me. But as soon as I started offering evidence to the public at large about how the Rock Island Davenport Police Department are in league with people who call themselves the original gangsters, who happen to be personal friends of a former Rock Island alderman. And I would like to think that Terry Brooks is no longer an alderman because of the things I was able to publish about him. During the time that I did this public service, I have been repressed by the police. I've been arrested hundreds of times for having a video camera in my car that wasn't even operating. My mother received a call before she died from Chief of Police Scott. And Mr. Scott told her that if they catch me with a video camera in my car, they're going to put me under the jail. I have been adjudicated to be a journalist in the 7th Judicial District by Nancy Tabor herself and by a federal court. So I'm allowed to have a video camera. There was a bill that shortly existed as law in Illinois where you couldn't record an Illinois police officer committing public corruption. That was overturned by an appellate court. And I am understanding that one of the reasons that that bill was pushed through, that unconstitutional bill was pushed through, was because of yours truly. My cockamamie website was able to defuse a false prosecution brought upon me by Mr. Wolf, who took an alcoholic's word that I threatened to shoot her. And even though I provided the court with prima facie evidence which acquitted me, which proved that during that self-same conversation I never threatened to shoot anybody, you people proceeded with that. And you had the evidence that I presented to the jury which got me acquitted in 5 minutes. So I don't know how I can expect fairness from you. You told me, look, then please, I'm almost done. I'm almost done.
Okay, because I have another hearing at 9 o'clock.
Well, you know, I understand, but I've been kept waiting for hearings myself, sometimes for hours. So I'll be done soon. So, first of all, apparently you're willing to give real attorneys leave to do things like depositions. But you won't do that for me. I mean, you granted a deposition to Mr. delaying. And there was an interesting deposition because two policemen contradicted each other's story during that deposition. But that's beside the point. Apparently, during hearing, you're willing to tell me, okay, we're going to grant you your depositions and your subpoenas because you're indigent. And then I receive by letter the coup de grace, where you say, no, we're not going to do that for you, Mr. Soboroff. Well, in that case, I'm going to have to ask the Supreme Court to interject here, because apparently I need a real lawyer who will argue the relevant issues of this case. And the first relevant issue that this court doesn't want to look at is that Michael Wolf destroyed 4 post-conviction relief applications, and for that reason alone, deserves to be disbarred. And before I die, I'm going to see that happens. Now, I cannot prosecute this case without the materials, and that's all of them. Everything you guys have. I want a copy of it, and I want it mailed to my residence. I'm not living in my home because the court and the police allowed people to firebomb my home while I was in it. Now, I don't know why they pulled the stunt that they pulled. Because they knew, because they were listening to a police scanner, that the police were about to show up at my home. They knew that. And you know, I didn't receive any of that material. That all happened on November the 4th. And and up to that date, I'm supposed to receive everything from the court. I haven't received anything from that alleged arson, which was a terrorist act, which was committed by 2 teenagers because her mother riled them up. So anyway, in order to proceed with this, and we're going to have a continuance, you guys have stalled this thing since before the new year. I don't expect that I'm going to be able to go into a trial or into a hearing with anything before next year, and at this rate, probably never. I have been denied due process for over a decade, sir. I can prove it. I'm done now.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state had filed a resistance in this electronically. I was told this morning that that wouldn't have been mailed to Mr. Soboroff, so I don't know if Mr. Soboroff has received a copy of that resistance. But I will summarize it briefly for the court. With regards to the court order from Judge Nancy Tabor, that was instructing applicant's attorney proven John J. Wolf to acquire the documents. He filed a report with the court on April 28, 2015, noting his compliance with that order. So from the state's perspective, that order has been fulfilled. Additionally, we did mail a list of documents to the defendant on December 27, 2017, including Soboroff incidents by complaint, Soboroff records by address, Soboroff records by calling. Okay.
Slow down, including.
Okay. Including Soboroff incidents by complaint, Soboroff records by address, Soboroff records by caller name, Soboroff records request and breakdown list, as well as documents pertaining to the applicant's website, which has been previously turned over to counsel following Jack Wolf.
I didn't get any of that. I didn't get any of that.
And then, with regard to the allegations, depositions of Mr. Delane regarding the 4 post-conviction applications, we cited 2 filings by the applicant from 2012, where he detailed that he mailed those applications to the clerk of court or had Mr. Delane hand deliver them to the clerk of court, not to the county attorney's office. So contemporaneous to, or more contemporaneous to those incidents, he was saying that they were mailed to the clerk's office and not to the county attorney's office. And
It's
so we believe we've complied with any court orders. We do not believe depositions of Harry DeLange is appropriate. And so we would ask the court to take appropriate action.
You don't think so, huh? Wow. Your Honor, may I?
No, let me take a moment, please, Mr. Soberoff. Mr. McHugh, those documents that you state in your resistance and that you stated on the record, are those all of the records that would have been provided to Attorney Wolf and any previous counsel?
Yes, Your Honor. What we mailed on December 27th had been delivered in a CD to, I believe, to prior counsel, Attorney Lipsick, I believe, might have been Attorney Merrill, and then followed up with an email on the website.
Well.
Information.
Okay, so then, everything that was sent to Mr. Soberoff, there was nothing that was deleted from anything that had been provided to previous counsel. Is that correct?
That is correct. I'm aware of nothing that would have been altered or changed.
Okay.
You have no other information pursuant to Judge Tabor's order in your possession other than those items that you delivered to Mr. Soberoff.
That is correct. We believe we turned everything over.
May I?
Rob, briefly, please.
All right. First of all, I never received any the 450 pages you claimed you were going to use in a prosecution against me. I never received that. I have not received anything about the people who filed over 32 false reports about me. That amounts in damages, sir. Okay, I expected to receive that. I have not received anything, really. I haven't received anything. I haven't received the things that I need to prosecute this case. Now, I don't know what the county attorney's office believes. I don't know what they believe that Mr. Wolf turned over to me. But it is a matter of record that when Mr. Wolf was informed that he should not sign off on receiving anything that is pertinent, because I didn't receive it when he mailed it to me. I did not receive documents I was expecting to see. And those documents comport to the felony cases that were filed against me, which is exculpatory evidence which the county attorney's office and my court-appointed attorneys colluded to suppress. And you are still wanting to suppress exculpatory evidence. Now, Mr. Wolf testified that he handed documents pertaining to this case to an officer of the court, and they disappeared. Now, one of the reasons I want that deposition, I'd like to find out which officer of the court that was. Because apparently, officers of the court have done this to numerous people who I've met on the street in Davenport. Now, I don't know if I can take their word for it, but I know my personal experience with you. I didn't receive pertinent information that I need for this case. I am told by Mr. Wolf that he was granted permission by the court to get expenses to get an expert witness, and I was hoping that would be a guy from Pfizer. Because Mr. Episcopati is not qualified to testify about the effects of a drug which was given to me on an experimental basis. I didn't find that out until I was in IMCC. But there's testimony that you can read in the magazine, which apparently says that Nancy Tabor shouldn't have ordered me to take that drug. So there's a lot of issues here, and you people have not fulfilled the first one. The county attorney is mistaken. They failed to include the exculpatory evidence which they told me they were going to use against me in court. So I need to have all of that done again and delivered directly to my residence, because it is a matter of record that when I found out that after I had told Mr. Wolf that we don't have all the material, that he then told the court otherwise, that I had him dismissed. And that is also a reason for one of these depositions. Is the court-appointed attorney allowed to lie to the indigent or the politically inconvenient? You know, I went through an ordeal a few months ago where I was told to go to a hospital and collect a referral, and I was beaten up by a police officer who already beat up a woman. This is on YouTube. This guy didn't like her boyfriend. And this guy is a model citizen. He just happens to be black. And when he heard her name in the emergency room of a hospital, he beat on her for over a minute. He has caused a 70% reduction in the vision in one of her eyes. And this guy is still a Davenport pig. Imagine that. I want that material. I don't have it in my possession. I need to have it. Now, you people have been suppressing evidence for over a decade. So don't expect me to believe anybody from the county attorney's office, particularly when they have a boss who needs to be disbarred. And Mr. Merrill's boss, the managing director of that law office, told me that in my first conversation with his office. And after I had that conversation with him, Mr. Merrill refused to communicate with me at all. And at the point when I had him dismissed, I was told I should be more cooperative. Well, if you guys want a railroad, by the way, this issue to me is over almost $20,000 worth of fines, which I was told by 2 presiding judges that I wouldn't have to worry about. I wouldn't have to worry about that. I'm not going to face a fine. Particularly in a case where I didn't know that Mr. DeLange was going to want to plead me guilty. There was plenty of exculpatory evidence in that case. He just didn't want to go through the trouble of getting it because he's court appointed and he's only getting paid like $3 for an hour, I guess. But he wasn't on my side. None of the attorneys he've appointed to me were on my side. By the way, I also did not receive papers from the court telling me which attorneys I previously have been assigned, all of whom I had dismissed because they're shysters. If you take a case, I don't care how much you're getting, I don't care who's paying you. An attorney has an ethical duty. One of those is not to lie to his client. Those depositions are necessary, sir.
What's your address, sir?
My address is...
Your Honor, I don't have that.
No, documents were sent to Mr. Wolf's office. As soon as I examined them, a day it took me. I just wanted to make sure I called him up and I told him we don't have the things that we need to have. He then told the court that we did. I have a recording of my conversation with Mr. Wolf. I also have a recording of the beating I received last year at Genesis West by an off-duty Davenport police officer who moonlights in that facility.
Enough.
Your Honor, I believe the address we have for Mr. Soboroff is 1239 Marquette Street, Davenport, Iowa.
Was a cover letter sent with those documents?
I have a cover letter from October 24th. I tracked down the cover letter from particular mailing, but I don't have that one in front of me.
There is no cover letter from that mailing, Mr. McHugh.
There was no mailing.
Mr. Soboroff, enough. You're not going to interrupt me anymore.
I'm sorry.
Mr. McHugh?
Yes, Your Honor.
No cover letter? I want to resend the cover letter to that address. That's
Yes, Your Honor.
That's the address that I see in the court file that Mr. Soboroff just provided. That's exactly what's on our EDMS screen. And Mr. Soboroff, as far as the subpoenas, the clerk indicates that those were sent to you at that address on December 29th, 2017, with instruction.
I never received them.
Those subpoenas, you can use those subpoenas to subpoena individuals for deposition.
I never received them.
This court has never restricted your ability to depose anybody.
I never received them.
I'm not. The clerk has notified and filed that they sent those to you on December 29th, 2017.
I never received them.
I will ask the clerk to send one more round, Mr. Soboroff.
Thank you so much.
They are not required to hand deliver those to you.
I understand. I just expect to get them in my mailbox.
Well, they were sent.
Well, I never received them.
So the ruling on the motion is that the county attorney's office will resend and provide proof of mailing by filing a cover letter with the address that Mr. Soboroff provided, and that will be the ruling of the court.
What about the deposition scheduling?
That's up to you, Mr. Soboroff. You schedule those. No one else does.
I can't pay for it. You know that.
I have filed a ruling that it will be, the cost can be filed with the appellate public defender's office.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Soboroff.
Thank you so much. I'd like to receive the paperwork on that.
It's been filed. It's in a file.
Well,
That's
you
not my responsibility to send it to you, sir.
well, somebody's going to have to.
I'll talk to the clerk to ensure that orders are sent to you, sir, but that is all I can do.
Thank
I
you.
am not doing any more than that.
Thank you.
The hearing is concluded.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You know, I detect a certain amount of animosity there. I detect a certain amount of animosity. We still haven't gotten to the point, though, where I'm going to get what I need to have from the court and from the pigs. Because I didn't get it. I did not get it. I'm going to have to file this one. Now, I've got all of the previous hearings on file. Because these people hold secret hearings, they don't even want to tell me about the fucking hearings they've held. They have done things to me which are patently unconstitutional. They have published things about me on the internet which are untrue, but most of the things you're going to see on the internet are. But you know, it's distressing. The only reason I'm going through this is because I moved into a very racist community. And when my significant other joined me there, things only got worse. I mean, it was one thing seeing a Jew davening on his back porch in the morning. That was in the days when I could daven. They didn't like that. And if I had known that moving into Kalamazoo, Iowa was like for a Jew moving into Germany in 1933, I wouldn't have gone there. Nope. This is Dmitry Ivanovich with The Naked Truth. Now, I'm not going to get anything. I don't expect to get anything. I expect as soon as I write up those subpoenas and present them, there's going to be an argument. I expect to get this paperwork that he said that he's going to send me about, well, the appellate court. I need to have an attorney. I want I don't have the material that I need to have to summon everybody that I need to summon to these hearings. So I'm going to have to get off a letter to the Clinton County Court because they didn't give me the information. If there's anybody within the sound of this transmission that can help me out, I will pay you. I don't know how, but I have never stiffed anybody in my life. You know, Perry Mason was a fiction because Perry Mason actually went over and above the things that lawyers do because he went balls to the wall for his client. And all he had was the client's word. The police were lying, or somebody was lying. But somehow, Perry Mason and Mike Hammer, now there's a guy who could take a blow to the back of his head. That's why I became a detective. Because in 1982 I discovered that I could take a potentially lethal blow to my head and live. This is Dmitry Ivanovich with The Naked Truth.